perception that you're trying to convey is that you've been maintaining the property. You're living here, but you've been maintaining it adequately, not just when it needs to be, right? So hey guys, welcome back to Bay Area Home Hustle Podcast, episode 2. Thank you for joining us. I'm Parm Rahi, I'm your host, and joined by my co-host.
I'm Mike. Good to see you guys again.
Absolutely. So today we're going to get into something that is relevant, actually, which is listing your home on the market as of today, right?
Right.
Before we get into that, we want to.
I would like to bring up our thoughts and prayers to those people the unfortunate in LA right now.
Right.
And I'm looking at just now before we started, CBS says that more than 24 people have lost their lives in countless homes and everything. And of course, we have a lot of people who need shelter. You know what? Now's the time to help your neighbor, guys.
Absolutely. It is very tragic. And yes, our thoughts and prayers go out to everyone. I hope everyone made it out. I hope you're safe and you know, it'll get better. It's just going to take time. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, do wanted to send our thoughts and prayers out there. So yeah, before we get started, let's talk about the market really quick, right? What's happening in the market? It's a hot
Well, you mentioned earlier, interest rates are going to stay high. They're not going to come down right away, eventually, but not right now. But it's still a seller's market, believe it or not.
Right, and that's because of inventory, right?
Right.
Inventory is still an issue in the Bay Area, right? So it depends. Now it's coming down to each individual properties, though, right?
Right.
It comes down to aesthetics. It comes down to what the property offers. If it's fixed up and so forth, it's moving quickly.
Right.
If it needs updated, it's outdated, then it's sitting because obviously they're asking way too much in terms of price, and it's just sitting out there, right? So segue into that, we're going to be talking about our 4 elements of selling a home in this episode, okay? And we're going to touch up on what we call is our S plus triple P, which is strategy plus the 3 Ps. So first of all, let's get into it. Let's talk about the strategy.
Okay. So to start, before if you have this feeling of you thinking that you want to go ahead and sell your home,
right,
even before you start looking at the value, calling up an agent and everything, you need to know why you're selling.
Right.
Really, the why is really important. Are you downsizing? Okay, you've lived in this home for a long time. You're getting a little bit older. The house is too big for you. You're looking for a smaller size. Okay, that's one. Are you leaving the state?
Yeah.
Okay, relocation, right?
Yep.
And the third one, if you're just starting out, your family's growing, you need to upgrade it to a bigger place, right?
Right.
So you really need to know your why.
Right. And segue into that too, like if you're upgrading, there's ways to do that too, right? There's a way you can either, if you have the funds, you can buy a property first and then come back and sell it, right? You have a seamless move where you have some place to go to, and then you can come back and sell it. Or you can do it simultaneously too in this market, because the way the conditions are right now, there is inventory, right? And I think sellers will be more prone to, accepting offers contingent upon selling your home, right? I think it would work in this market. It probably wouldn't work in any other market, but you can always pick a home that's a little bit more outdated, offer, 45-day closing, and make sure that's contingent upon you selling your home, price it aggressively on your end, and get rid of your property and move the funds over. So there's a way to do it. And there's also something called a bridge loan too, where you borrow the equity in your current home to buy the next property, and then you come back and sell it. And there's different sort of offers that different lenders have.
Right.
I don't know the actual gist of it right now. Sometimes you can even move the interest on the back of the loan. When you sell the property, you pay it back then. So there are creative financing options available out there. You just have to kind of search. Highly recommend talking to a mortgage loan officer, or maybe your bank, or whoever you do business with,
because you really need to know how much equity you're going to get out of your sale.
Absolutely. And then that's very important. The equity is key, very important. And then also understanding market conditions. We talked about it a little bit. Yes, it's a hot market right now. Rates are not in the buyer's favor, especially first-time home buyers. It's not in their favor right now.
Even with the perks, it's still not in their best favor.
Yeah, I mean, there's first-time home buyer programs,
credits. Yeah, yeah,
home
yeah,
buyer programs
yeah.
out there. I think counties do offer it. I think Alameda County has something, even Contra Costa County has something, but it's just not available right now. And we'll touch about it in our next episode
Right.
when we talk about buyers and stuff, and we'll bring in a lender to talk about
Right.
those, but not in this one. This is specifically, we're just talking about we're looking for a seller's perspective. What would you need to do? And
And
then,
also, as exactly what Palm said, timing is very important.
right,
Right now we're in California during the pandemic. It's always been, even now it's still every week we do it on a Friday on our IG live, right?
right.
It's so far it's always been a seller's market,
It is.
right?
It still is, and that's because inventory is still tight, right?
That's
Inventory is
right,
still
right.
slow, and more and more sellers realize that too. I mean, there are really great agents out there too that add value. They go into these appointments and they tell them, okay, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and this is how we're going to move the property, right?
Right.
And there are those that don't do anything.
Well,
And
leave those alone.
we
But
got those guys too.
getting back to what you were saying, it's really important for you to find the correct agent,
Right.
because they're going to be working for you. All right. They're looking out for your best interest. I suggest that you guys go out whenever you're ready to sell a home, interview several agents, maybe 3, 4, 5, until you find one that you're comfortable with, because they're going to be selling your dream, your home that you've lived in, that you love.
Right. And remember, it's a big asset that you're moving into the day, right? So you want someone that's, comfortable, not only comfortable and professional, but even capable of handling
You
that
guys are walking
transaction.
hand in hand, man, the agent and the client.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, next get into the next stage, which is preparation.
Oh, I love this one.
Okay, I'm gonna let you take this one then. Go
No,
ahead.
no, I love this one because, all right, so when you're ready to sell, get rid of that old couch you're not going to be moving. You're going to be dumping it after, and you close it anyway.
Yeah.
So get rid of it. So that subject is called decluttering.
Right.
Make your house presentable. Keep it clean. It's so important because when we do open houses, especially when I show my clients, bring my clients in, they look at the living room, they go straight to the kitchen. Right? So you got to make it, first of all, you got to make spaces for them to walk around.
Yeah, kitchens and bathrooms are the main things
Yeah.
that folks look at. That and like aesthetics, like what you're talking about in the backyard, especially, right? If you have clutter running around, it's just not good.
Yeah.
It not only does it not diminishes like accessibility for folks to not be able to access those properties and see what's going on around it. It just doesn't look good.
Also, it shows that the seller or the homeowner doesn't really care about upkeeping the house.
Right. That's important, right? The perception that you're trying to convey is that you've been maintaining the property. You're living here, but you've been maintaining it adequately, not just when it needs to be, right? So I think that's very important. And the next thing is that as you're working with your real estate agent, they'll walk the property with you too. He or she will tell you to, some of the repairs and updates that you should do before bringing the property back on the market.
Right.
That's something we do with our clients all the time. We actually did that with our last property in Oakland,
Right.
where we, and we can go into detail a little bit, where we did minor updates because we did not do extensive updates. Even though the property required extensive updates, it needed a new kitchen, it definitely needed new bathrooms.
We cleaned out the yard together.
Right, but we didn't do that part, right? So let's get into a little bit like what you can do. What's an extensive update and what's a minor update? So let's talk about.
I'll do the minor. I'll do the minor. You do extend. No, actually, if you don't have that much funds,
right,
keep it clean, right? Stop the dripping faucet, right? Tighten it up.
Make the minor repairs.
Yeah. If you can afford a little bit more, paint the interior walls.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And this sort of connects with the major upgrades too. Like when we say major upgrades, so let's say your agent says, okay, your kitchen's outdated, it's built in the 1970s. I live in a 1978 home right now, right? Our kitchen, when we bought the place, was extremely outdated. And my wife was like, okay, this is not going to work out. So we had to put in a brand new kitchen. What that means is removing cabinets, removing counters, removing appliances. I mean, new walls, new ceiling, new lighting, new everything, essentially, end of the day. But to Mike's point, what we're saying is, so that's a major update, and that can be what, like anywhere from $30,000-$50,000.
30 to 60, or a little bit around that. But what I'm saying is, if you can afford it, because as I said, when I do an open house with people and I bring clients to an open house,
right,
the very first thing is they go through the living room, they look around, oh, it's spacious because all that, it's cleared out, right? Then they go straight to the kitchen. The kitchen to me is like the
Right.
selling point.
Right.
You need brightness,
Right.
right? You need modern, right?
Brightness, lighting,
Clean,
right? Clean.
right?
It needs to look bright.
That sells a house already. Like,
Absolutely. And so in today's market, what I would recommend is this: that if you have an outdated kitchen and you think, okay, I can't afford to fix this because I don't have the funds or whatever have you, which is fine. Here are some of the things that I would do, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike. First thing I would do is if you have an outdated kitchen, at least paint it, right? If you can't paint it, at least change the front doors of that kitchen cabinets, right? Change out the hinges and the handles.
right?
That would aesthetically, it'll add value, right? Change the countertops, completely remove the countertop, put a brand new countertop on there. Change out the fixtures, the sink, and the faucet, right? If you can afford to do the appliances. Another thing I was going to mention is that don't have mismatched appliances, right? Have one singular brand. Buyers look at that.
If it's Westinghouse, Westinghouse. If it's Samsung,
yeah,
Samsung.
don't have like
right,
LG
right.
and a
Yeah,
Samsung and
yeah,
some other
yeah,
random brand
yeah,
or whatever have you.
right.
Spend a few $100 and match those things. It'll look nice. Trust me on the end of the day, right? Paint it bright. The colors that these
Yep.
days are neutral colors now. White is in. That's the new thing. If you're selling a home in 2025, make everything white. White walls are in. White kitchens are out apparently. Well, they're not in anymore. Now
That's
we're
right.
going into this woody, oaky look again,
Right.
which looks really great with white. So that's something you can do. What else? Did I miss anything?
No, I think it's pretty good because, see, main thing is you also can ask your contractor to get you a deal.
Right.
I mean, you can go and buy your own material.
Absolutely.
You can go different places. You can actually buy your kitchen cabinets from A and then your kitchen counter from B.
Right.
So
yeah, to give you guys an example, in the last listing that we had, our sellers were going through something in their personal lives, and we weren't able to do extensive updates. We wanted to change out the bathroom, we couldn't. So all we did was we painted the place, we cleaned it out roughly, we cleaned out the floors, we changed minor things all around. We made it aesthetically look good. We fixed the garage cracks, anything around it on the property, and we were able to sell the property. It took us a while. It took us roughly 60 days.
Because of the high interest rates.
Well, because of the high interest rates, yes, of course. But
Yeah.
it took us 60 days, but we were still able to secure an offer close to $900,000. So it can happen. It's just going to take time. So you have to be patient. It's
Right.
a long game
So
right now.
prepping your home before the sale is actually, you need to think about that too.
Right. So before you go on the market, so let's say if you're trying to list now in March or April, springtime, this is probably a perfect time for you
To get started.
yeah,
Start planning.
Start planning. Have
Yeah.
those conversations with
Correct.
your agent or your contractor,
Right.
saying, "Hey, I want to sell. What do I need to make this look ready?"
Yeah.
These guys will tell you what they need to do.
And here's a tip. Before you start doing anything, take the old pictures. Because I know
Yeah.
when I take my clients, the buyers, this is before, this is after. It
Absolutely.
really helps.
Especially if you're doing major upgrades,
Yep.
right? If you're
Yep.
changing out bathrooms and rearranging, cabinets and things like that. Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. That adds value for sure.
Yep.
The other thing I was going to recommend that I know staging is it can be expensive, but I think it adds value, and we'll tell you why. Because we had a listing where why don't you go ahead? You take the baton on that because we talked about that.
Yeah. Okay. So we've seen the prices of staging going up.
Right.
Okay. They're not going to come down. That's
of
the way it is.
That's just inflation.
Inflation and everything.
Of course, everybody raises their prices.
But we had a condo in the Fremont area.
Yes, we
okay,
did.
And it wasn't small size condo. We didn't. The seller didn't want to do staging first because it was a condo, and if you start doing like a couch and everything, the condo looks smaller. Right. So we did not stage for maybe a month or two. Okay.
About a month and a half.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it sat on the market.
It sat on the market, and I got feedback from people bringing their clients in, saying that, why didn't you stage it?
Right.
And I get it. We actually did virtual staging. Here's another tip for you guys: can do virtual staging online. But they wanted to come in and say, why didn't we physically do a staging? And after a couple of agents saying that to me, I was able to convince my seller, says, you know what, let's do minimum staging, okay? Yeah, we had a budget, for staging. So we did the staging and it worked.
And minimal staging means at least doing the living room,
And one
some of the
bedroom.
kitchen, and one bedroom at
That's it.
least. That's minimal. What we're
Yeah.
talking about, right?
Yep.
When we say minimal, we're not asking you to like stage every single room and every single bathroom. No, that's obviously it can get costly, especially if you're tight on the spending before selling, right? So make sure you do that. What else we can talk about?
And actually, after the staging, that's when you bring in the photographer
Right.
and the videographer.
Right, and your real estate agent will work with you on that, right? Every agent out there will have some sort of a marketing plan, right? And they'll have videography, photography, their personal websites and so forth. Every single person will do that. Don't forget that. But remember, end of the day, when you're looking to hire an agent, this agent's job, remember, their best interest is to sell your property, and it's not to secure a buyer and try to double end the deal. Their main goal is to sell your property, and that your interest is the utmost important to them, right? It's no longer the case where they can just slap a sign in the front yard and it's going to sell, right? It doesn't work that way anymore. That time is gone. You cannot expect an agent to just slap a sign, and some of these folks are doing it. We're still seeing some of these guys. I've got more than a couple listings now, more than 2 listings, I think, in my area in Hercules, where the property is just sitting there because the agent just didn't do a better job. There's no sign in the front yard, first of all, and then there's going to the next thing, the photography. It seems like he did it himself.
They took one picture of the front of the house, and that was it.
The agent has to be able to sell your property, and these days, you gotta be known. You gotta be out there. You have to have social presence. You gotta be on like YouTube's and Instagram and every single other social media channel.
You have your own website. The house has its own website.
Well,
virtual tour.
Yeah, that's true too. But remember, the more eyes your agent can bring to this property, the better it will be.
Better, more response.
Absolutely. And the less eyes there are, the property will just sit.
And then I hate to say this, you might even have to reduce the price.
Absolutely. And remember, the first week or at least first 2 weeks are very crucial.
Yes.
Right? You go on the market, you hold an open house, you hold a broker store. This is where you have to put your agent has to put 100% of their effort.
You got to push hard. Push hard the first 2 weeks.
Right.
Because after 2 weeks, the property starts
the momentum goes down.
Yep, and it becomes stale.
Yeah, absolutely.
And after a month, agent's going to be calling you up and say, what's wrong with your property?
Right, and you don't want to get into that point. Nothing's wrong with it. It's just
that, yeah, because it was not marketed correctly.
Right, and that's what's one of the reasons that's happening out there. And it can also happen because of pricing too, and we'll talk about that in a second in the next category. But remember to do that.
Since we're talking about agents, okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
The very last point, about preparation.
Yeah.
Is finding the right agent. Now,
yeah,
that's called agency. It's a relationship between you, the seller, and the agent that's going to be representing you. It's called agency disclosure.
Right. So yeah, absolutely. So what Mike is referring to is I said Mark. Sorry, man. What he's referring to is and we can get into a little more, right? So what he's saying, disclosures in general, make sure they're ready beforehand, and some people don't do that, right? Which is kind of weird.
You're supposed to.
I've seen listings where
we always prepare like months ahead, get it all signed, dotted, everything, and then we post it online.
I know. I've seen listings where the agent will put down in confidential remarks, disclosures are out for preparation or whatever. And there's no timeline when they'll be available.
I know.
But there are really good agents too, and I've seen many of those, and they'll have disclosures done prior, right, in the first phase, in the strategy phase, even the preparation phase.
Right.
They'll get the disclosures done. There'll be a disclosure link in there available for you to review. Because remember, if your property is really nice, fixed up, ready to go, move in,
ready to sell,
the last thing you want is the other side asking, "Oh, where are the disclosures?"
That's right, because it takes them a while. Because disclosures are not just like. It's like this much nowadays.
It is. Remember, you have to disclose everything about the property. If you're living in it, you know what's going on with it, right?
That you know about, though.
That you know about it, right?
Yeah.
You have to disclose that. Anything else that comes up is usually just because of inspections and so forth, and that's a totally different story. But that's very important. Have your disclosures ready to go. Okay, that's very important. And what Mike was alluding to was, and I'll get into it in a second, it's that part of the disclosure is going to be a residential listing contract, right?
Yes.
And that's what your agent's gonna have you sign, and which we'll talk about the commissions and so forth. And I'm sure you guys heard, and this was blown out in every outlet, every news media, the lawsuits that took place in real estate, right? Specifically, the lawsuit that was filed against National Association of Realtors, which is NAR, National Association of Realtors. Uh, it was filed in Missouri by plaintiffs, by basically home sellers, that said, and I'm going to read this here a little bit. I'm going to tell you guys about it. It talks about the impact from. It says that lawsuit claims the National Association of Realtors and big brokerages work together to keep real estate commissions high, unfairly hurting some sellers. They argue that NAR's rules force sellers to pay for both their agent and the buyer's agent, okay, making the process more expensive for sellers. Sellers had a little room to negotiate commissions, and buyers weren't encouraged to pick a cheaper agent since sellers were covering the cost. They're saying that by enforcing these rules through the MLS, the service that we use, NAR allegedly created an unfair system that violated laws meant to ensure fair competition, costing sellers billions. Okay, a lot in that. Let's go break it down really quick. So, first of all, we as agents, we have a local association that we join. So, like, we are part of Bridge Association or East Bay, right? That's the association we joined at the local level that works for us in our local counties, whether that's Contra Costa, that's Alameda. They're the one who's going out there, going to the city, going to these meetings, and all the changes that are taking place in the cities or in the counties, like point of sale ordinances. Like for example, when we in Oakland, when we enacted the point of sale ordinance that street repair must be done by a seller. So if you're selling a property, you have to fix the street that's right in front of your property.
Fix the curb.
Fix the curb.
Yeah.
Not your property, but fix the actual curb, right? Yeah. So the walkway basically.
Right.
Right. That's a POS. That's a point of sale. So this is what our association sort of goes on. Either they fight against, or they're basically lobbying for us in a way.
Right.
Okay. And then we have CAR, which is California Association of Realtors, and these are the
overseers of everybody.
Oversees the entire state, yep. And they create forms and regulations that benefit and that regulate us too in a way, right?
Right.
And we use their standards and so forth, and we have to live by that standard, right? And then on top of that is NAR, which is the National Association of Realtors. What is their job? Mainly the job has been to be advocates for us on a national level.
Right, at so Washington or whatever.
Yeah. So anything that's comes up. But recently, I'm sure you guys heard of it, that NAR hasn't been doing his job the way it should have been. I don't want to get too much detail into it. I don't want to get political on here, but obviously there's some stories that came up that it didn't happen. So long story short, a bunch of folks got together, filed a lawsuit against NAR. They won. NAR is going to supposedly pay out $418 million or something like that.
Yeah, it's about 400.
Which comes down to probably nothing to sellers. End of the day, it's mainly it's just the lawyers going to take all that money. But what it really means is that now, when you're a listing agent now, or when you're interviewing a listing agent, you are when the commission topic comes up in that listing agreement, you as a seller are only liable to pay your agent commission, your listing agent commission.
Right, the one that's selling your property only.
Right. In that, we can no longer advertise commission for the buyer side.
The buyer side, right.
And that's also removed from the MLS, which is the multi-listing service, which we'll talk about in a second. Under what is it under promotion, right? We'll talk about MLS in a second. Anyway, so that it got decoupled. It was always a negotiation. It was so, like, for instance, I'll give you an example. When we take on listings, right, we go talk to the seller. We explain to them that, hey, we're going to charge you 2.5% or 3%,
right?
But we're going to charge you another 3%. Our brokerage is going to charge you another 3%. But for cooperating with other agents, for them bringing a buyer to us, we're going to give them the other piece, right? So we always convey that part, but I guess, I don't know what happened in the lawsuit. It wasn't argued well, and it wasn't seen well, and it's seen like it's manipulation, and that NAR is manipulating. Anyways, long story short, that's what you have to look to now, right?
Right.
So now the question is, as a seller, do you offer commission to a buyer's agent or not?
It's your choice.
It's a choice, but remember, end of the day, in this market, that rates are high, properties are sitting around.
Yeah.
I think it would be a disadvantage
If
in
of
your
course,
position if you don't
another
offer
two and a
commission.
half, 2.5%.
Right. So what has to happen is now when you accept an offer, the buyer's agent who brings an offer, they actually have to write that in the contract. They have to ask for it. It's no longer just given. It's no longer just
It's
assumed.
on them to find out who is paying the buyer's agent commission.
Right. So they have to request it in the contract. They
Right.
can say seller to pay 2.5% commission to buyer's agent, blah 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 blah.
Right.
And you have to respond to that. You can reject it or you cannot reject it. But remember, don't put yourself in an uncompetitive position by
Right.
not offering commission in an area where everyone else is offering commission, right? I'm not saying that agents will steer, but sometimes you never know, right? You can. It's kind of hard to say. It's really going to come down to a unique proposition of the or unique property, what you offer and what you don't offer.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
So let's talk about promotion. Let's talk about promotion next. Getting the word out, right? So we've moved over from pricing. Now last P is promotion.
Should we do the promotion first?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do. Yeah, because it's actually part of it.
Yeah.
So
Because we talked about MLS and stuff. So let's just
right.
talk about that.
Yeah. Let's move on to that. So very importantly, once you work with your agent, they're supposed to try to, as I said, the first two weeks, the 14 days, they got to maximize it. They not only is it going to be on the MLS, attracting other agents in the MLS that participates in the MLS, but also on social media.
Yeah.
Zillow, Redfin, whatever.
Yeah.
So the idea is to get as many people to notice your home.
Absolutely.
That you're ready to sell.
Yeah, the more eyes you can get on your property, the better it will be, and better the end result end of the day, right? And your agent will do the promotion. They'll highlight the features of your property, unique features. Maybe you got a pool, maybe you got a gazebo.
Yeah, they'll maximize the uniqueness of your property. Absolutely. That is their job because they want to sell.
Right, and they'll hold open houses. And all that. And we talked about that in the beginning too. Remember, in the first 2 weeks, very crucial to get that going in the first 2 weeks.
Right.
You don't want your listing sitting out there stale. And going back, and I know I don't want to cut going back and forth. So pricing is something that seems like I jumped, right?
Yeah, that's fine. We're getting back to it. Yeah.
Let's just go back in pricing. Let's talk about that. That's sort of the finding the sweet spot right there. So let's talk about that.
That's another responsibility for the agent.
Exactly.
They have data, or we have data, through our resources to price your home correctly. Now, let's just say your home is worth $1 million, right?
Right.
We look around with the comparative sales that's been in the last month that is apples to apples. Your home is a 3-bedroom with 2 baths. So within maybe across the street has a house the same size, same number of bedrooms, same number of bathrooms.
Yeah.
Maybe they have a pool extra. Now, you cannot have the same price because there is a little bit of dissimilarity right there.
Of course. Uniqueness of the property will matter at the end of the day, right? I mean, your home will offer something different, the other might not, right? So which is fine.
So we need to price it, or your agents, or we will also price it correctly. And also the value of the agent that you choose to work with is going to know the price of the current conditions of the homes.
Right.
The market conditions, they need to know. That's our job. That's what we study almost on a daily basis.
Yeah.
We need, if you were to ask us, hey Parm, Oakland, such and such a neighborhood, what's the price range?
Right.
We can give you a pretty much general price range right there.
Yeah, I mean, the agent's just going to pull up comparable sales and stuff, which we talked about a second ago. But yeah, there's a distinct difference between appraised value and a market value, right? Appraised value is sort of what appraiser can appraise the value based on comps in the area, right? Apples to apples, oranges, things like that. Market value is what somebody's willing to pay for it, right? So yeah, I mean, you could be sitting on a property that might end up with more money just because of the uniqueness of the property,
right?
Which is okay, which happens all the time. What else are we going to talk about?
Why don't you talk about the strategic valuation?
Pricing right. Pricing right is very important, and this is going to lead into the next topic, which is don't overprice the property and don't underprice the property either, right? And again, it comes down to really evaluating your neighborhood and seeing where the value really lies, right? I mean, if everyone's selling their property for $850,000, um, don't go out and ask for $900,000, right? Go below that probably. List it for 825 and hope to achieve the 850.
You might get 900,
Yeah,
but don't show that you're this is what you want, because there's always going to be an opportunity for you to get to that number.
right,
Because even if you can renegotiate,
right.
right? Once you have you can have your two agents talking to each other, you know.
Yeah, and that happens all the time too, where sometimes you list the property lower, and this really comes down to, like, sometimes what sellers will do is they'll, like, if the property's worth like $800,000, they'll list it for like 699 just to draw in offers, right? And then what you get in a situation where you get multiple offers. So that's when your agent has to, send out like multiple counters to different people for maybe highest and best, or maybe he sends out specific ones to specific people, like remove this condition, remove that condition, and so forth, right? So what we're saying is, try to hit the sweet spot with it, right?
Right.
With your agent. Don't undervalue your property either. Don't go too below it.
Then
Don't
people get suspicious.
People get suspicious, but at the end of the day, you might be leaving money behind,
That's
right?
true too.
You might get an offer, you might be happy with it, and
Right.
sometimes sometimes it's fine with you, right? I mean, maybe you're in a position where you don't care to make the $800,000 because you bought the property, I don't know, 40 years ago. I mean, it's completely up to you end of the day, but I'm just saying that, be careful not to overprice, because if you overprice it too much, it'll just go stale. It'll just sit on the market, nobody wants it, and then after that, you'll start getting lowball offers, right? If you underprice it, you might just be
Both are a disservice to them. Yeah.
exactly. Both are. I don't know. I mean, that's my thought on that. But
Yeah.
What else?
I think that's really important to because how would you know if you're pricing correctly? That's where the communication with your real estate agent.
Absolutely. And we have maybe fussed the points together. I was trying to get to strategy and then preparation and pricing and then promotions. I kind of mixed up there, but it's okay. Uh,
I think it's fine. Main thing is, why we're doing this podcast is we want the people out there, to know that it's not just so simple to just say, I want to sell my house. We want to
No.
educate as much as possible with you
Yep.
guys.
And that's something that Mike and I both kind of came up with an agreement this year, is that as we interview or get interviewed by more and more by sellers and buyers, the common sort of consensus or the common feeling is that there's just not knowledge out there. Unless you start interviewing people and kind of understand this, there's just not a lot of stuff being offered out there. It's very vague. Even like I've seen right now in real estate, it's nothing but webinars. Everybody's trying to sell you something, right? It's every day, and I see it every day. And there's even people that are charging money for these webinar classes and stuff, which is kind of ridiculous to be honest with you. But we're just trying to add some value here. We're trying to get you to a point where you understand a little bit, if not all of it, as to what to expect rather from this, right? Because remember, end of the day, once you get everything ready and you're ready to go in the market, the next thing that's going to happen is you're going to get a contract, right? You're going to get an offer. You're going to go on a contract, which is going to be for 30 days. And I'll touch up really quick on that. It's going to be for 30 days. The buyer will have contingencies in there. In this market, they probably will have contingencies, which probably be for 17 days. So they'll have a inspection contingency, they'll have appraisal contingency, they'll have a loan contingency.
Right.
And those contingencies, after 17 or 21 days or 13 days, whatever, once they're removed, then you go into the closing period where loan docs get delivered to escrow, which is the neutral party, and then you go to closing, which gets recorded at the county level, and keys are handed over, and you're done with it, right? So
Right.
it takes a long time. I mean, people think that real estate is such an easy thing that we'll just sit around here and just write contracts.
We don't just write contracts.
It's tedious. It's a tedious business. And remember, for us as real estate agents, every single property is unique, right?
Yes.
In every property, we have a different situation we run into.
Right.
Here's
It's
another thing.
never been the same situation ever.
And it's talking about situations. Here's another thing that you should watch out for now. And since we had so many companies exit out of California, I'm talking about insurance companies now.
Yes, home insurance companies.
Home insurance companies,
Yeah.
right? And that's happening. It will happen more now with the LA fires as well too, right? When you're selling as a seller, you probably should, share your information, your insurance information with the other side, with the buyer's agent, with the buyers for sure. I would do it in this
Yeah, it
market.
actually it's really important for the buyer and the seller to have a rapport.
Right.
You guys are working together to sell your home. Don't
Right.
forget.
I mean, there's a moratorium in
Yeah,
place
yeah,
now for a
yeah,
year, I
yeah.
think. But what happens after that? Uh, don't you think these companies will leave? They probably will. Are we going to have enough money in the fair plan? Probably not. Is the fair plan going to go up? Probably. Are we going to pay hundreds of thousands of
Who
dollars
knows?
insurance?
Most
Probably, likely, very likely, right? So, but is that going to sway people from not buying real estate? I don't
no,
think so,
no,
right? I
and,
mean, this is going to be the same story. This is kind of similar to what's happening in Texas and
right,
Florida, right? Their insurances are very high. They pay like
right,
$4,000 or $5,000
right,
annually for policies.
right,
We're just not used to that, right?
right.
So it's something that you kind of have to get used to now. So just
We
be on
did
the
we did an average right out here in California.
yeah,
Well,
2,800 or something like that,
yeah,
twenty six hundred.
just under 3,000, which actually is a lot cheaper than Florida and Texas right now.
Right. So just be mindful of that too. That situation might come up where you have to offer help to the other side because they might not do it. The other thing I would do too is if you live in an area where your house is surrounded by trees, like you have more than one tree, and they're like at least within 6 feet of your property to the wall. Like you have a tree that's 6 feet away from the wall, or you probably consider removing that tree.
Yep.
If you can afford to, I would do it
Yeah,
because that only it will speed up the process because that's the last thing you will not get into that because that is an issue that we run into a lot now is a
right,
home insurance
right.
buyers not able to obtain home coverage which thereby pushes the
Because
contract
of
out,
foliage.
right,
Yeah,
because of foliage and all
yeah,
that, right?
yeah.
So just consider that too. I don't know, that's all I have for today.
I think it's great. I mean, look out for our next podcast.
Absolutely.
And it was always enjoyable talking to Parm here, and hope we were useful today.
Absolutely. And also look, there should be a link down below for our seller's guide. Please go out and download that. It's free. We're not asking for anything. And we will see you next week.
Bye, guys.
See you guys.